what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've finally gotten my bike back. Everything's going my way. This Maríomh Galéir agus tá fáilte aiscadaí an clár Kazawaki. Hello everybody in YouTube land and welcome back to the Kazawaki show. And I am a very happy little pixie in fairyland today because I have a day off work. I have my motorbike back with freshly chromed forks and lovely fork seals that are no longer leaking. The sun is shining, rain is staying away. Stupid lorries in front of me, but other than that, I'm a happy little bunny because I've spent the last, I think April was the last time I actually got out in a proper spin on the bike, and I have been without the bike more or less since April. So that's what, end of April, May, I had the guts of a month anyway at least without the bike, and honestly it was like missing a limb. Every morning I got up where the sun was shining and I was just like, no, why God do you give me fine weather when I have no two wheels to ride on? But all is right with the world and order has been returned to the universe, because I am reunited with my GTR. So today I'm back on the Photo Rally trail, woohoo! And today I am doing I'm aiming to do two Photo Rally points. The Irish Photo Rally points. One I'm heading for now is Paud O Donoghue's memorial. It's Paud O Donoghue's forge in County Meath. And Paud O Donoghue was a character in the Irish Rebellion of 1798, and he was a blacksmith, and a role that's often forgotten when it comes to blacksmiths in the history of Ireland is like typically blacksmiths shoe horses, make farming implements, you know, the likes of ploughs and things like that, repair farming implements and things like that. But in Irish history they had a very important role to play in the 1798 rebellion, because the weapon of choice of the croppies, who were the name given to the rebels in the 1798 rebellion, the weapon of choice of the croppies was the pike. And it's not the kind of pike now that you would imagine as a farming implement, modern farming implement. You wouldn't recognize it. Essentially it was a long spear. And the Irish pike in this rebellion had some fairly interesting designs. Essentially it was a very long shaft of wood with a spearhead at the top, pike head, but the Irish ones had an extra hook on the side of it. I'll put up a picture here if I can find one to show you. And what this was, the role that this had was, the advantages of the pike were it was a long range weapon. It was a long shaft, so you could spear your opponent from quite a distance back. And the idea of the hook was there was two uses for the hook. The first was if you thrust the pike at your opponent and missed, you could twist the pike in your hand, twist the shaft of it in your hand and pull it back towards yourself, and it would kind of impale your opponent from behind. That was one of the uses it had. The other use it had was very useful for when in battle against cavalry. because infantry doesn't stand much of a chance against cavalry in 1798. They generally would just ride out over the infantry. But what the hook was often used for as well was to cut the reins of the horse, so that the rider no longer had control of the animal. And these pikes were made, obviously, by blacksmiths. And obviously enough, the carrying of these pikes would have been illegal. A treasonous act in itself. But the making of the pikes was also illegal. So blacksmiths were they were an obvious target for the Crown forces, because they were the ones who were providing the weapons that the rebels were going to use in their rebellions. And Paud O Donoghue was a blacksmith in County Meath, and he made a great many of these pike heads for the rebels in the 1798 rebellion. And there's a poem about him, or it could be a song either, but I know I've heard the poem recited, where he was making these pike heads at night, and he had scouts out on the road keeping an eye out for him in case any Crown forces happened to be coming along. But they were betrayed somewhere along the way. Someone told the secret, as the poem says, and the yeoman arrived to arrest him, and he was arrested and he was chained up, and they took a very dim view of his activities. So they told him to kneel before the Crown forces, and according to the poem, he told him he'd kneel only for God and he wouldn't kneel for them, and if that didn't suit them, they could shoot him where he stood. But the captain of the yeomanry decided he was going to make an example of this rebellious blacksmith, and his horse needed a shoe. So basically at musket point, he ordered him to shoe his horse. So he was brought into the forge and he was put to work, and he shod the horse. And when he drove the final nail in the horseshoe, and he knew he wasn't getting out of this. He knew he was going to be executed anyway. They were just embarrassing him and humiliating him by making him shoe the yeoman's horse. So when he finished shoeing the horse and he drove the last nail, the captain wondered why he was holding onto the horse's hoof, why he didn't let go of the horse's hoof, and why he was still clutching the hammer. And he wasn't long before he found out, because Paud Donoghue planted the hammer in his skull and killed him. Hopped up on the yeoman's horse, which he was freshly shod, and took to the hills and escaped. So that's the story of Paud Donoghue. But it's an interesting indicator of the role of blacksmiths in Irish history, and the role that's often forgotten about in the rebellion of 1798. We all know the Wolfe Tones and the Robert Emmets and all these leaders, and the French General Humbert, and all these famous leaders of the doomed rebellion. And actually, if you check out my other video from last year in the Bridge Too Far series, I visited the Gunner McGee's cannon in Balnamuck, which is where the last battle of the 1798 rebellion was fought between the Irish and French rebels and the French army against the British Army, or the English Army as it was at the time. And we all know about the General Humberts and the Wolfe Tone and Robert Emmet and all the leaders of these rebellions, but we forget about the little man. And I always find it interesting, you know, they say history is written by the victors, but I think, you know, if you think about it, history is written by the ascendant victors. You know, the ones with the money, the upper classes, they're the ones that are remembered, but the ordinary man is forgotten. I mean, the ordinary croppie who would have fought with the pike, no one remembers him. No one knows who they were. You know, they're not in any textbook or anything like that. And it's a nice indication of the importance of the ordinary man, the simple blacksmith, and the role that he had all over the country. In every town and village there was a blacksmith working, and it's very likely that in every one of those villages the blacksmith was doing the same as Paud O Donoghue, you know, fashioning weapons, simple basic weapons for the poor Irish who were rebelling against the might of the Crown forces. That's just a nice way of remembering and reminding us that the ordinary man does have a role to play in how history shapes the world. Anyway, that's enough of my shiting on. We're about 26 minutes away from this place, and yeah, I have to be in Dublin in 2 hours for a dental appointment, so we might be under a little bit of pressure here. Better start passing people out. See that wall there now? Inside that wall is Carton House, or Carton Estate, where the golf club is, and where all the Irish rugby team and the Irish soccer team have their training camps. There's another little bit of interesting geography for you there now. Carton Estate, just outside between Meath and Leixlip in County Kildare. And I suppose while I'm in this area I may as well mention it as well, actually. I don't know if you've seen my video on the Mark Nugent Mizzen to Malin Head Challenge. If you haven't, go and check it out. I think today is the day that they're closing the GoFundMe page, and I obviously haven't done my homework because I haven't checked to see how much they raised, but they definitely raised a couple of thousand, a good few thousand, like could have been close to 10,000. But Mark is originally from Meath, and you know, he did it. He cycled all the way from the southernmost tip of the country to the northernmost tip of the country, using only his arms to power the machine. So massive congratulations to him on that. I mean, as I said in that video, a lot of people would shrink away from the idea of riding from the Malin Head to Mizzen Head on a motorbike. Other lunatics actually do it on bicycles, but to undertake that trip and that trek, given the injury he sustained, it just shows the mettle of the man in terms of mental fortitude and physical fortitude as well. You know, a massive congratulations to all of those involved in that, because that was a double achievement. To actually make the physical journey from Malin Head to Mizzen Head was one thing, but to also raise such a significant amount of money for two very deserving charities, and to split it 50-50 between them was just, you know, hats off to all involved. And now I may possibly have an opportunity to overtake this guy here if there's no traffic, but there is. Damn it. So I'm 10 minutes away now. So hopefully the GoPro battery will last. I know this road. I used to travel this road to go to work in Drogheda. Paud O. Isn't it? Yeah. Here's Fairley House Racecourse. Oh god, there must be something on, lads. Why is there something on the village tonight? Is that? There must be bingo, is it? Is there bingo on tonight? Oh, the circus. Oh, very good. No. Was it? Yeah, it was the Drogheda I used to go. I used to work in Trim as well. No, Trim I used to go to Kilcock and turn up there that way. Yeah, this is the one I used to come this road to Drogheda and I used to work up there. And that wasn't yesterday or the day before. God, this is all changed. This roundabout wasn't here. That used to be just a bend. Jeez, this was a little village the last time I was here. And if I recall, this was a whole of a spot for the speed van. I think. So that's 15 or 20 years ago now. Yeah, they used to catch you coming out here. Because you come blasting down the hill and around the bend and they'd be sitting there waiting for you. Yeah, and I think, if I'm right, this brings you over towards Kilmoon Cross area. I think if you continue on this straight, you come to a T-junction, or a crossroads anyway, you go left, and then about a mile or 2 miles down the road you turn right to go at Kilmoon Cross to go on for Drogheda. Which is an opportune moment to say hi to Motodragon, who I think is up around that area. I think I recognise some of those roads from... I know I recognise the road where someone pulled out from the side as he was coming. He was going... The car in front of him went left at a kind of a forked junction, and the car who was at the junction pulled out in front of him and he barely got around it. I know that road well. I recognised it straight away. So, hello Motodragon. Corha, do you know what? I think I might know where this place is. Yeah, there's a shop up here on the right, I think. Yeah, I know this place. Ah, here, boys. Right, well that was Sydney. Sydney's now by there doing the photo rally with a couple of years, and this is the Paud O Donoghue monument. Now, I'm going to have to do this very quickly because I have to be in Dublin city centre in an hour, and I'm under a bit of pressure for time. I wonder if I can sneak in here. Will I get in a lot of trouble, I wonder? Probably will, but sure, look it. Nothing says I'm an innocent bystander than a man clad in leather with a bright luminous yellow helmet breaking into a monument. So this is him, Paud O Donoghue. And that's the pike. That's the pike head I was talking about. See the way the hook is on it there? So when you thrust forward, if you missed him, turn the shaft in your hand and pull it back, and it caught him in the back on the way back. And it was also used for hooking the reins of the horses of the cavalry and splitting them. Let's see what this is. Oh, this is the poem by Seamus Heaney about the croppies. Pockets of our greatcoats full of barley, no kitchens on the run, no striking camp. We moved quick and sudden in our own country. The priest lay behind the ditches with the tramp, and people hardly marching on the hike. We found new tactics happening each day. We cut through reins and rider with the pike, and stampede cattle into infantry. The retreat through the hedges here cavalry must be thrown, until on Vinegar Hill the fatal conclave terraced thousands died, shaking sides at cannon. The hillside blushed, soaked in our broken wave. They buried us without shroud or coffin, and in August the barley grew up out of the grave. Well, that's part of the poem, or the song. But 98 start season came and Irish hearts were sore. The pitch cap and triangle, the patient folk outwore. The blacksmith thought of Ireland and found he'd work to do. I'll forge some steel for freedom, said Paud O Donoghue. That's the poem by Bobby Sands, which I'm sure you can Google because I have to get to a dentist appointment. But that's another one off the list in the photo rally. It's a very nice sculpture. Very cool. But now I must rush. Hit the road. Oh shit, how am I going to get out of here? Oh, I didn't think about that, did I? Oh, this could be tricky. There you go. Not so bad. Now, to make a quick escape before somebody calls the guards.